Hi guys, welcome to Fyrside.
Hi, Patrick.
It is the Padmeister here with you, and we are today talking about taking a stance.
Sounds serious, but before we get into all that, am I alone in thinking that this guy is a spitting image of Anthony Kiedis? You know, the lead singer for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but holy shit. Incredible. Right? You see it, don't you?
Taking a stance, guys, and I was just thinking to myself, I can make another video about feminism, because it's so easy. But it's so easy. What's some more isms I can think of? Well, there's only really 2 or 3.
Might be a little nitpicky, but only 2 or 3 that you can think of. How about fascism, communism, capitalism, feminism, atheism, anarchism, environmentalism, nationalism, socialism, veganism, Marxism, Mormonism, altruism, fundamentalism, globalism, idealism. I mean, honestly, I could do this all day. Maybe not literally, but there are lots of isms you could discuss. A lot more than just 2 or 3. But since you're going to talk about atheism, let's hear what you have to say.
Love me some George Carlin. Greatest comedian ever to live, bar none. He was saying, they're talking about atheism. He was on the Bill Maher show. Bill Maher, George Carlin, 2 of the most famous atheists ever to live, I would say. And they were talking atheism, and somebody was, of course, religious, and they're going to butt heads. And the person went on and said, well, what about kind of this idea of God? Or brought up some notion of God. And George Carlin stops her and says, I think it was her. He says, oh, well, if you believe in some kind of all oneness, connectivity, whatever, that's fine. Right? He doesn't mind that. Just so long as it's not some guy in the sky, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, if someone says to me that they believe in some undefined deity that doesn't interact with human beings, or a God concept that isn't even conscious, then I care a lot less than if they believe in a God that has supposedly set out rules for me to follow. I'm not saying I don't care at all. In some cases, I might be interested in hearing their case, and I'd wonder why they believe in such entities, or, in the case of the pantheist, why they would even classify existence as a god. But as long as they stick with either deism or pantheism, they're unlikely to try and dictate how I should behave, using their god as justification to do so. When a believer starts trying to legislate laws based on their ancient myths, then I start having a real problem with their beliefs, especially since they can't demonstrate that their god even exists, or give an adequate explanation as to why I should believe their deity over another religion's deity.
If you don't love God, then there's something wrong with you. It's absurd.
What if it makes people feel better?
I wish George had challenged the man who asked, what about if it makes people feel better? That's just an appeal to emotion. What a weak argument that is. He's trying to manipulate people's emotions because factually he knows he can't win the argument. In other words, he's saying, oh come on, it makes people feel good, even if it is a load of nonsense for feeding them. How about we treat people like adults and stop genuflecting to their made-up stories? How about we stop treating people like children? Imagine if we use this sort of crap argumentation in every other area of life. Oh, that racism those people feel makes them feel good. It makes them feel racially superior. What's the harm, right? Why can't we just leave them alone? Wait, the belief in witchcraft makes people feel good inside? Come on, let's just leave them alone. Let's not tell them that their beliefs are wrong. No, that might hurt someone's feelings. It's not like those beliefs, which aren't based in reality, can have any negative effects. Unless, of course, you're talking about the 77 people who died between 2010 and 2015 in witch hunts. It's not that high a cost, considering those witch hunts often target the most vulnerable in society, such as women, children, the elderly, or mentally ill. Just think of all the other people who might feel less secure, less happy with their place in life if we disabuse them of their notion that witchcraft is real. Complete and utter nonsense.
It's a different thing. If you want to give the universe the name God, that's fine. The universe exists. We are all equal parts of it. We are made of the same stuff.
Yeah, I don't need the word God,
Does he decide things for you?
No, he doesn't. I don't believe in
then
a
you
he
don't
at
believe
all.
what all these other people
believe. I believe in the universe,
You have
you
have a more sophisticated approach to it, and I respect that.
But I don't denigrate anybody else's approach to it.
I do too.
There's the second appeal to emotion. She's saying in a backhanded sort of manner that George does denigrate people for believing in God. First, why should religion or religious people be exempt from jokes? He was a comedian. That's what he did for a living, and he did it well. Second, what's wrong with saying you disagree with someone? What's wrong with pointing out the absurdities in a belief system? Again, let's stop treating grown adults like children. Ran over. Moving on.
And this is something I want to make very clear to all atheists, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because atheists always say, it's the anti-position, which I hate so much, this stanceless position, which I hate so much, which is that, well, basically I can't know that there is a God, right? Instead of just saying, my stance is that there isn't one, right?
That's because you can't say that there's a 100% chance that there is no God. The pantheist version of God, existence itself, does exist. I wouldn't call it a God, but if someone does, while I would question that label, I'm not going to say I don't think the universe exists. There could be God concepts I haven't heard of, or that we haven't thought of as a species. Hell, there could be God concepts that we can't cognitively process. I see no reason to say I believe in a God, because I see no evidence for such a being. I would also go so far as to say that in the religions I have read about, such as Islam and Christianity, there are very good reasons not to believe in such a being, because their books are contradictory nonsense. We can also show evidence that their books aren't true. For example, we can see that as far as the evidence shows, no biblical flood took place as described in the Bible. But even among Christians and Muslims, the God beliefs between individuals can be wildly different. I've spoken to Christians, for example, that don't believe their God is spirit in nature, but rather that Yahweh inhabits a material body. I've spoken to others that will say their God has limits to its power, and these differences can change a conversation about their God drastically.
And more to the point, guys, what we could see through this revelation with George Carlin is most atheists, to me, they aren't actually... You're not an atheist in the way we would regularly define it in the dictionary. You don't like religion. More to the point, you don't like the idea of deities, authoritative moralism. These are things you oppose for principled reasons.
It sounds like you're describing anti-theists, like me. More than just atheists in general. The only requirement for atheism is a lack of belief in a God. Opposing religion is separate from atheism, although you can obviously be an atheist and oppose religion. However, there are quite a few atheists who are religious apologists. They'll openly say that they think religion is needed for societies to function, or that because it makes people feel good, we should support and normalize belief in God. Other atheists might push back against legislation based on religious principles, but once that cause has been defeated, we'll just go back to not caring about religion. I honestly think people like me, anti-theists, are in the minority. I fundamentally oppose religion and the spread of religion because I think it's untrue. That doesn't mean I hate religious people or want to forcefully prevent people from practicing their religion, but it means I verbally oppose religion.
And if you could just function correctly, you could take a principled stance on it. See, atheism isn't a principled stance.
My atheism isn't a principled stance, you're right. It's my lack of belief in God, based on the shortage of evidence for those gods. My anti-theism is a principled stance, because I think spreading untrue ideas is wrong. If someone doesn't believe in a deity, I often struggle with the notion that they too don't see opposing an idea they think is false as principled as well, although I do understand that different people think differently to me. But for me as an individual, while I think religions can contain beneficial ideas we can extract, they're couched in supernatural, often harmful falsehoods that usually go against observable reality. I would much rather if we as a species decided to base our moral philosophies, coping skills, and so forth on reality, on evidence-based thinking that doesn't rely on woo, magic, or the supernatural.
It's a stance in which, when viewed by me, I must make, inferences about it. I have to deduce how you came to this place, right?
Imagine that. You have to actually get to know someone's stance before you're able to agree or disagree with it. You actually have to engage with someone in order to figure out why they believe something and work out exactly what they believe. Wouldn't life be so much easier if everyone just fit under a nice, comfortable label that told us everything about them?
It doesn't actually say anything. Like, you tell me you're an atheist, then you sort of have to explain the position to me, right?
Yeah, and if you tell me you're a theist, you have to explain your beliefs to me before we can have a meaningful discussion.
But atheists aren't generally against the same notion of God that George Carlin is not against or opposed to. which is some idea of all connected oneness or what have you. And that is generally my biggest problem with atheism, is this lack of a position, this refusal to kind of take a stance. And you don't refuse to take a stance, guys, just because you don't know for 100% sure. You still take a chance and try to live your life that way, right? So I always have conversations with atheists, and they always backpedal into this notion constantly. Oh, well, I'm not saying that I'm just taking the skeptical position. Take a stance, man.
I can sympathize with Patrick's reasoning here. I don't know for sure whether or not a God exists for the reasons I gave earlier, but that doesn't prevent me from taking a stance against religion or from living my life as though such entities don't exist. If new information became available that showed a God does exist, I would no longer be an atheist, and I'd live my life as if such an entity does exist. And yes, I do wish more atheists were vocal about their atheism, but I understand some of the reasons why they choose not to. In some cases, it's not even safe to speak out against religion. Even if you're not physically in danger, you stand a chance of losing friends and loved ones who do believe in their chosen religion. It's a shitty state of affairs. Life comes in all sorts of gray situations and is very rarely black and white.
Take a stance, because then you can actually talk to people. How does it serve us to listen to your deity? How does that serve us to not listen to your deity? Do you know what I mean? You can actually have those talks because you have a principled position with which to work, right?
Why couldn't you have those conversations, even if you didn't take a definitive stance on whether or not God exists? Even if I don't take an absolute stance on whether a God exists or not, doesn't mean I can't discuss the merits of listening or not listening to their deity.
And as far as certainty goes, guys, whether or not you have certainty does not stop people from taking a stance on anything. Only in atheism, and it's sort of just an intellectual elitism about it that I don't like, because only in atheism do you find this. In abortion, everyone's got a stance. Everyone has an opinion on abortion and a stance on abortion, right?
Lots of people don't hold a stance on abortion. You're right to say that they don't have to be certain about something to hold a stance, and some people would argue we can't know anything for certain anyways. But I think you seriously underestimate the human capacity not to hold a stance on certain subjects. You're likely surrounded by people who don't even know who their local mayor is or what they stand for in terms of political policy.
And atheists have to start doing this. If you're out there, guys, I talk a lot about this, starting new movements. Start a new one. Atheism sucks. It's a shitty movement. It's a shitty group. It doesn't make any sense. Too many cynics. Too many a-holes.
Sure, there are lots of atheists who are assholes, but you're trying to make a movement based on a single issue, a lack of belief in God. It takes more than that to join a movement. It takes more than that to even oppose God belief openly. Atheism isn't a movement, it's a description of a single position.
It's bore down, it's toxic. Start the anti-deists. I'm an anti-deist. There's no deists. There's no deities. There's no deities. Okay? So if you're finding, well, I guess I'm an atheist. The same way atheists like to do that. Oh, you're an atheist. Like I'm an atheist. I believe in God. How can I be an atheist? I just don't believe in deities. Right?
Let me get this straight. You want atheists to take a definitive stance, but you seem unwilling to do the same. You just said you don't believe in deities, but you're also not an atheist. What are you talking about? Why would you consider yourself not an atheist if you don't believe in any gods? I mean, maybe you have a good reason for saying that, but I think if you're going to lecture atheists on taking a stand, you might want to consider defining and taking a stance concerning your own beliefs or lack of beliefs first. Unless, of course, you're going with the pantheistic version of God, in which case, I'd wonder why you consider existence God and not just existence. Honestly, if you're going the pantheist route, it seems, at least to me, to be an ultimate fence-sitter's position.
And if you don't believe in deities or authoritative moralism, then just say I'm anti-deist. That's all. You don't be anti-theist, just deist, right? And atheists aren't even that. It's atheist, but they're not even really anti-theist, they're just kind of nothing. They kind of get lost in the gobbledygook with agnostics, right?
Right? Wrong.
This is why atheists just sit around all day and argue with the religious. Like pointedly so, right?
Right? Wrong.
Because they want to prove something. You can prove, in my mind, the idea of a deity is impossible. I could prove that reasonably easy enough. I could talk with anyone from a spiritual standpoint and show them why their religion is a less good way of interpreting God. I can do that no problem. Right?
Most God beliefs that I've run across are practically unfalsifiable. Granted, I think this is a weakness and not a strength, but unfortunately, many people think that their unfalsifiable beliefs make it a 50-50 proposition, and they convince themselves that it's a good reason to believe in their chosen deity.
Comment down below, guys, if what I said made sense. I had stuff I want to say I don't think I remembered to say. No doubt it'll come out in the comments. Nothing more antagonistic than telling atheists their position is flawed, which it is, grossly.
I personally don't think it's antagonistic. I just think you're wrong.
Alright guys, comment down below. Are you a theist? Are you an atheist? Are you a anti-deist? Are you a deist? Right?
Consider this my comment. I'm an agnostic atheist, anti-theist. I guess I'm also technically an epistivist, especially when it comes to religion. Anyhow, that's it for this video. Please leave your comments below. I look forward to reading them. Take care and cheers.
Alright, we about to have some spiritual milk. To the left. Take a step of faith. Pray once this time. On the devil, let's stomp. On temptation, let's stomp. Bible slide real smooth. Now praise and shout. Woo! To the right. Take a step of faith. Jump out the boat. Right foot, let's go. Left foot, let's go. Bible slide now, y'all. Now it's time to get holy. Get right now. To the left. Take it to the grave and see it resurrect. Come alive this time. Right fist, 2 pumps. Left fist, 2 pumps. Don't look to the left. Don't look to the right. Backslide. No! Backslide. No! It's just a move.